find that a bit offensive, so you have to be careful with those as well. Choosing how to direct questions. So here we look at the situations where we might throw the question to the group versus where we might direct the question to an individual in the group. Overhead versus direct questions represents one type of question that you can use. Overhead questions go to the larger group. Direct questions are used to draw out the opinion of subject matter experts in the room or attract the attention of someone who may not be fully engaged with the group process. I think it is safer than throwing the eraser. Just remember, Kevin, in the future, asking questions of inattentive people is safer than throwing the eraser. Keep in mind that when you ask the group a question, their minds will give them possible answers to it, even if they don't say them out loud. Most people are hesitant to speak in front of others, even though they may not admit it. This does not mean they're not thinking of possible answers. So more often, and this is so true virtually, you ask a question, no one wants to talk over anyone else, or we don't know who's buzzing in and who's not. So people will often just sit there and listen. But they listen to your question. Their mind returns answers. And you have to trust that part of the facilitation process. When you ask the group a question, make sure you give them enough time to reply. A good rule of thumb is 15 to 30 seconds, and you may have to count yourself. Few people can stand more than 30 seconds of silence, but most people want to be polite and give others the chance to speak before they do. Now, the exceptions are Mr. and Miss Answerer who knows the answer to everything. But if you begin speaking 5 seconds after you ask the question, answering your own question too soon, they're just going to say the heck with it. He's just going to answer his own question anyway in 5 or 10 seconds. I'm just going to sit here and listen. You're going to discourage those people from responding to future questions that you might ask. Reverse questions are a great way to help engage subject matter experts as well. You don't have to be the Mr. or Ms. Know-it-all. If you feel that someone else in the room probably knows the right response, give them the chance. Give them the chance to contribute by asking a direct question to call on them for their ideas. Doing so will help build their self-esteem, and they may express the answer better than you could. If the question goes beyond the scope of the group, or if you're not sure of the answer, put it in the parking lot. Wait till you have a chance to do the research. Don't waste class time trying to sort it out when no one knows. Stick to the agenda. Let's look at some guidelines for phrasing questions. Here we've got some key do's and don'ts to keep in mind when you use questions to help raise group energy and engagement levels. On the do side, ask clear, concise, single-issue questions. Remember, stay away from those save the world questions. Ask questions based on the current user knowledge. Don't try to stump them. Ask challenging, thought-provoking questions. So there's not one right answer. You're not trying to ask someone what is the best temperature to do this at. Look for ideas and ask relevant questions. On the don't side, avoid rambling, ambiguous, multi-issue questions. Avoid questions that the majority of the group doesn't know. Don't try to show off. Don't ask questions that are too easy. That's insulting to the group. And don't ask trick questions. Handling their answers. Facilitators must also learn to effectively handle the answers that come from the questions that you ask. Here are 3 tips to help you avoid losing the person and possibly the group if you don't effectively handle an answer. So think about classes you've been in, meetings you've been in. Think about a time when you asked a question and you felt the facilitator didn't listen to you, or maybe they even discounted you. They put you down. They may not have meant to, but they did. That doesn't just affect you momentarily. It might affect you for the class. It doesn't just affect you. It might affect the entire class. So handling their answers matters, and it relates back to that concept of the only thing I know is I don't know it all. So when people give you an answer to a question, there's an opportunity for positive reinforcement. What is the dimension of their response that fits? Acknowledge their effort to respond. And do what you can to minimize potential learner embarrassment. Find something valuable in their contribution. Every once in a while, it'll be totally wrong. But try to understand what prompted them to give you that particular answer to your particular question, especially if it's not what you're looking for or if it surprised you. Let's look at some very specific types of answers that can come from your class. So if the answer is correct or partly correct or incorrect, let's look at and see what we have here. How do you answer questions from the group, and how you handle the answers they give to you matters just as much as your questions. So first of all, we're not going to lecture. We're going to ask more questions. And once we start asking more questions, that means we have answers coming from them and more questions coming from them. That's some trainers call that the downside of engagement, but that's why you're there, man. That's how they're going to learn. The key thing to remember here is that you can usually find something right in every response. This is not always the case, but it is the case a high percentage of the time. The worst thing you can do is discount someone when you respond to their question or an answer that they give you. And you can do that just with your face. You can discount someone with both your words and your actions, such as your body language or facial expression. So be very cognizant of this happening. Instead, focus on acknowledging the effort they made to simply try to answer your question. Hey, they didn't just sit there clammed up. They tried to answer your question. Thank them for giving you an answer at a minimum. And remember, others are watching. They're looking at how you're going to handle this answer. They're going to be more or less likely to contribute based on how you manage this response. If you discount one of their peers, you lose them too. A better option is try to find something in their answers that was positive without BSing them, without trying to shine them up. Something that is along the lines of what you were looking for. Typically, part of the answer is right or gives you something you can build on, but make it genuine. This is where using a direct question can come in handy. Okay, so someone gives you an answer that's a little bit funky, look for a subject matter expert that might be able to help you out. If other group members see a peer getting positive reinforcement for a contribution, they're going to be more willing to contribute something themselves the next time you ask a question. Now, every once in a while, you're going to get a response that is totally incorrect. Explain why it's incorrect to the group in a positive manner. I also like to reflect on, well, what question did I ask? Is it possible that I asked this question in a way that it was misunderstood and led to the incorrect response? You can still thank the person for attempting to answer, but be genuine. Don't try to act like you care with your words and indicate something different with your actions or tone of voice. Keep in mind that people are observing you as much or more as you are observing them.